Alright guys, Christopher Bell gets the job done once again. His second win in a row for this season. Back-to-back weekends with a W. Um, yeah, he wins at Circuit of the Americas. So, yeah guys, this is the EchoPark Automotive Grand Prix COTA, Austin, Texas race review. And yeah, like I said, congratulations to Christopher Bell on winning back-to-back dubs, back-to-back races. Yeah, and it wasn't easy, man. Those final laps were just extremely fun. Were just really great to watch. Christopher Bell trying to get around Kyle Busch, and it was hard for Christopher Bell to get by Kyle Busch. And keep in mind, Kyle Busch hasn't won in almost well, I can't say that now, but Kyle Busch, like, he hasn't won in 59 now 60 races since his last win, which came all the way back in 2023 at St. Louis at Gateway. So yeah, guys, Christopher Bell was able to get by him, and William Byron and Tyler Reddick were on the charge. But in the end, it wasn't enough for both of them, and Christopher Bell was able to get the job done. So, yep. So on the pole for this race yesterday, it was the 2311 Racing, Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace. So, man, that was really good on a positive note right there. Reddick ended up finishing third, and Bubba Wallace, he ended up finishing 20th, but he did win a stage. So, yeah, and got 30 points. So, 30 points total. So, yeah. So, stage one was won, like I said, by Bubba, and stage two was won by Ryan Prix. And the track, I wasn't originally going to do a race review for this weekend, but since the track layout was different, and the racing, I'd say, out of the past few years, I'd say it'll create more passing opportunities, and it was a positive indeed because we got to see drivers make more passing attempts um, than what we saw back on the older layout, which the newer layout is which they just added a little bit of added a shortcut to cut off the back half of Circuit of the Americas. So yeah, the racing was really, really good. If I have to give this race an overall score, it would be an overall 7 to 8 out of 10. Like it will be a 7.5 out of 10 for this race. So yeah, that's a good score right there. Um, there are drivers I do want to mention. First off, Kyle Busch ended up dropping all the way back to fifth, and Kyle Busch, he's a guy I didn't have making the playoffs this year, guys. Not because I didn't have Kyle Busch making it because I just didn't trust Richard Childress Racing's cars. I didn't trust Richard Childress Racing and their equipment that they were going to bring Kyle Busch. If you just give Kyle Busch a car that is capable of like getting top tens, he could get that car into winning speed. Kyle Busch, he got top five. He had a really strong day yesterday. Um, just like I said, if you give Kyle Busch winning cars, he'll definitely make the most out of them. And if Richard Childress Racing continues to bring cars like Kyle Busch had yesterday, he'll be well on his way to a win and get into the playoffs. So, yep. Shane Van Gisbergen, he ends up finishing sixth. I wasn't surprised he was up front. I wasn't surprised he was up front. Guys, he started his racing on these kind of courses. So, I expected him to be a contender, and he was, but his car just wasn't really the best when it comes to restarts, when it comes to firing off. Like his car just was not good at all whatsoever when it comes to like firing off. So yeah, Chase Elliott, he ended up bouncing back and finishing fourth after that contact with Ross Chastain. Basically, what is it, a dive bomb into turn one and got into Chase Elliott, which caused a melee and which has caused the turn one COTA melee. Um, so yeah, if you want to know where Denny Hamlin finished, he ended up finishing outside the top 20 and 21st. Um, yeah, I didn't have the highest of expectations for Denny Hamlin because I know Denny isn't really the greatest, wasn't really wasn't really the greatest on road courses, and it's one of his weakest links, which are road courses, and Yeah, unfortunately, he had damage when Ross Chastain got in the chase early. It created that whole scumble off on lap one. So yeah, Denny Hamlin, he just really wasn't even competitive in this race. Just really wasn't, and it's likely because from that damage that he had back on lap one with that incident. But and then he did spin out and got into Austin Dillon. So yeah, from what I've seen, Denny Hamlin just lost it because from Denny Hamlin just lost the car basically. So and yeah, it's just unfortunate. Just unfortunate, but it is what it is. On to Phoenix next week. Definitely strategy, like there has been the past 2 years at this racetrack. Whether you either you can really say that when it comes to on road courses, but you either can stay out and get stage points or pit and get better track position for the next restart. So yeah, but mostly I would like to focus on the final laps of this race where Kyle Busch trying to hold off a hard charging Christopher Bell, and he was able to get by him. Like Christopher Bell, if you watch the onboard on the S's, he was clearly faster in those section of the corners than Kyle Busch was. And remember, these two had a history last season where Bell got into Kyle Busch and Busch just spun around. And yeah, and Christopher Bell didn't want to have deja vu from last year, so yeah. But yeah, man, he was able to get by Kyle Busch, and Kyle Busch he was hard to pass, man. He was just so difficult to pass, and I don't blame. And like it's just look, Kyle hasn't won in like almost 60 races now, and unfortunately for him, he just didn't have the long run car needed to hold off the 20. And he also had tire advantage too. Like Christopher Bell pitted like a few laps later than Kyle Busch, which that is definitely a factor. And later Shane Van Gisbergen able to call back up to six. He actually had the freshest set of tires of anybody on that restart. So Kyle Busch, I'm not sure if this is true or not, but I think he led the most laps yesterday. I don't know. I know like Kyle Busch, I think Kyle Busch led over 40. Shane Van Gisbergen led like over 10 laps. Um, yeah, and I think Christopher Bell and William Byron, I think they didn't really even show up in like the top. Well, they were of course contenders, like top 10 contenders, but they really didn't get up to like the podium spots until the final stage. The racing was really good. Like the racing was really good. Like I said, I give this race a 7.5 out of 10. Um, this is like the racing was again with the new layout really good. It created a lot more passing opportunities and the laps. They added more laps, of course, because the track is shorter. Connor Zelich, this was his first Cup debut, but from the lower series, there was a lot of hype around him, and he was in the top 20. He started like I think he started inside the top 10. I'm not really sure about that. I think he started in the top 10. I know Suarez did, but Daniel Suarez as well, man. Just tough break. He had a top 10 caliber car, and he ended up getting wrecked. Well, he spun out and Connor Zilic got together, so just tough break. Tough start to the season for Suarez, man. He wrecked out at Atlanta last week, and this week, man, just not been the brightest of starts. So yeah, Kyle Larson, his tire came off, which that's gonna be trouble for the pit crew guys. So yeah, AJ, um, he was up front. He was up inside the top 10, at one point inside the top five, and I do not know what happened to him. I don't know what happened. And yeah, that's it for this little race review, guys. Congratulations to Christopher Bell once again on getting his second win of the season, back-to-back weeks with a W. On the Phoenix next week. Like I said, guys, I won't do these every week. Uh, I won't. I wasn't even planning on making a race review for this race. But since this track had a new layout and we have a four wide car battle for the finish for the win, I was just gonna go ahead and make this race review, guys. So that's it, guys. And anyways, this is Preston signing off. Peace out.